What's going on, everybody? Appreciate you tuning in. We got the WNBA finals kicking off this week, and I don't know if we won the lottery or something, but it turns out two of our teams are squaring off because we have a sister station that is over there in Vegas, Dice City Sports. They cover the Aces, we cover the Mercury, so we're getting a chance to do a little teamwork, a little cross coverage right now. And for that, we got a chance to bring in Derek Hegna from the Dice City Sports. Derek, I appreciate you joining us today, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
And of course, we got Wendy Lopez, our beat writer here for Burn City Sports covering the Mercury. Great opportunity now to kind of break down what looks like on paper to be a really fun matchup. We got the Mercury going up against the Aces for it all right now, starting with game one later on tonight. Before we dive into all the things that we got to talk about for this matchup, I kind of want to look back a little bit about the roads that these two teams took in getting here. And we can start with the Mercury, who Diana Taurasi retires. A lot of people looked at this season with some of the trades they made the offseason as being a little bit of a reset, kind of a get you over roster until you start to rebuild. And yet they find magic in a bottle. They find a way to make this team bigger than the sum of its parts, and they go on this run. Wendy, at the start of the season, at any point during the year, did you think they had this type of run in them to go through the defending champs in the Liberty, to go through the number one seed in the Lynx that looked like an absolute monster, and yet somehow they get here? Did you see that this was a route of possibility for them, or are you as surprised as I am that they made it this far?
No, I'm definitely surprised. I mean, at the beginning of the season, Kalia Copper and Natasha Mack were the only two players to return from last season's team. So everybody was new to each other. No one had ever played with each other in the WNBA. You had free agents coming in. You had rookies coming in, playing in the W for the first time in their careers. So really, it's just so surprising how they were able to mesh so quickly at the beginning of the season, right when they went on those little runs, especially without their big three of Kalia Copper, Alyssa Thomas, and Satu Sabli. They were winning games. They were never under 500 during their tenure the entire regular season, and so this is definitely just a big surprise how well and how fast they needed to find chemistry together. And so going against the defending champions and, like you said, the number one seed, I mean, that's not easy. And now they're going to face what is essentially a dynasty. The Aces have been in the finals 3 out of the last 4 seasons. So it's a pretty tough task, but no one really gave them that expectation, right? So this is just so cool. This is amazing to see just how well that they've been playing with each other and how quickly they were able to do that.
Yeah, on the other side of the totem pole, the Aces, like you said, they've been to the finals now 3 out of the last 4 years. It is at this point, I think you have to consider it like that. You said a dynasty, and they kind of had their hands full. They got everything they asked for in the first couple of rounds, though. I was surprised to see it not only go 5 games against the Fever, but to go to OT and to really kind of come one bucket, one tip ball, at any point in that 5th game from losing that series, Derek. But for them to get it done, is that just a sign of a champion? Is that sometimes that's what it takes? And are you surprised that it's been maybe as difficult of a playoff run for them to get to this point now to get to the finals as it has been?
I would say it definitely has to come as a little bit of a surprise, but at the same time, this has just been the story of the Aces season. To really go into depth about just how insane this entire run has been, you have to go all the way back to the beginning of August when the Lynx came into Michelob Ultra Arena and just blew the doors off the Aces. Everyone's talking about the Aces are barely hanging on to a playoff spot, talking about the window potentially closing, maybe starting to have to go into that phase where you have to rebuild, maybe have a couple of lean years before really coming back. And then all of a sudden, 17-game win streak going from game one to the playoffs. It's the absolute craziest run, definitely one of the best runs of form that the WNBA has ever seen. But all of a sudden, like you said, against the Fever and even the first round against the Seattle Storm, there were some hangups. There There were times when you had to really start adjusting, but this is the importance of having a core that has won multiple championships before with Asia, with Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray. All of those players know exactly what it takes to not only win, but produce at the biggest moments. And even against the Fever, yeah, there were hangups. Game one, the Fever had a great third period, third quarter that just ultimately took them to the end. Game four, definitely did not go the way that the Aces wanted, but the Aces have shown this ability to adapt and adjust to the situation as it comes. And game five, Kelsey Mitchell goes down, but the Fever go on a run, close a 9-point gap, but the Aces ultimately pull away in overtime to make it to this point. It's been this and road the entire way through the season, and it's really the story of the season is just the resilience of the Aces to prove that they are worthy of dynasty status, and just really getting here is maybe the most impressive of all three of their runs, regardless of what happens, just because this time around a couple months ago, we weren't even sure if this was going to happen.
Yeah, there was a moment where I playoffs almost looked a little bit in question for them. It felt like, or at least with the way that they looked on the court at times, but they certainly, I don't know, figured it out. They got it going, and I mean that run was incredible. Before we dive in again to the finals, we got to talk about it. The national news coming out after the commissioner decided to really just speak her mind in a way that I don't know any commissioner probably ever should, and comes out with some comments about Caitlin Clark and says that she should be thankful in the league. Derek, we got to start with you. I mean, you got a chance to see the Fever, and even with that team going on a run without her, kind of the impact that Clark has had on the league with the momentum that the league has had. Personally, it felt like a very tone deaf, irresponsible thing for a commissioner to say when you were given a golden goose of a player that has brought so much attention and positive attention to your league and to women's basketball in general, to then go out and say that she needs the WNBA. To me, there's never been a league that has needed a superstar more and a global star right now than her and the WNBA, and kind of what she's been able to do to the league in such a short term. I thought that was absolutely reckless and a wild statement to say, but I'm Derek, curious your thoughts on it.
I'm telling you right off the bat, when I saw those comments pop up for the first time, my jaw just about hit the floor. I was stunned by what I was reading. I couldn't believe this was happening because here you have someone, one of the most marketable players, if not the most marketable player the WNBA has ever seen, and you're telling her that she needs the WNBA to essentially make her living in this. And it wasn't even just that, but Nafisa Collier, who at the All-Star, by the time of the All-Star game, was the leading MVP candidate. No one was really discussing Asia because of all the Aces struggles, but also kind of telling her that she can't really complain about the referees because that's what winners do. I just couldn't believe it. And the worst part about all of this to me is that, yeah, the WNBA is getting a whole bunch of media rights deals finished. None of it matters if you don't have a CBA, which as after this series, it expires. So you are doing all of this and saying all of these things that you shouldn't be saying anyways, but you are doing this at the most critical point in your league's history. And it's not like WNBA players have to go overseas anymore to play games. They have Unrivaled, they have Athletes Unlimited now that are based right here in America. So it's not like you are the only show in town anymore. If players don't want to play in the WNBA, if they decide that negotiations aren't really going anywhere, they're going to hold a strike, even lock out for the first time in the league's history. They have options. And the number one thing to me, and people tend to forget this happened, the NBA was having a rough go getting people for the longest time until around the era of Magic, Bird, and then when Michael Jordan came up, it was over. The NBA had become a massive brand, largely on the backs of those players. The WNBA is in that status now with Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese. They aren't missing the boat anymore on the likes of Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart, Nafisa Collier. You have all of these players that if you play your cards right, you can build an entire brand around. So the fact that you are risking all of that just to prove some kind of point is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, the other side of that is you have those cards, but watch what happens if some of those stars go to some of these other leagues. And then look at what happens to all of a sudden the momentum and the ratings that the league has got a chance to see the last few. That's a F around and find out situation. And you are really getting close to seeing what can happen. If Caitlin Clark decides to play at another league, I mean, that would be so detrimental for the WNBA. And I Wendy, I mean, I don't know what that like the end result would be other than just horrible for any status or any opportunity of this league really kind of evolving into being it's so close to being a mainstream sport right now. If you're seeing it now on national television, you're seeing it on national like debate shows. They're this close to really kind of exploding and she's just it feels like she's all about to ruin it with the way that she talks and some of the decisions that she's making.
Oh, yeah, I mean, people who don't even watch the W are, like, learning about these kinds of things. You see it on all over the news. Even the Spanish-speaking stations are talking about it, so definitely her comments are just, are just this flame, and, when you really think about, like you guys have been saying, all these players going to unravel into these other leagues, it's just, that's just something that can and will happen if these things don't kind of just cool down a little bit. If Kathy comes out and really, tries to explain herself. But no, I agree with everything you guys have been saying about these comments. It's just been so wild. And some players, including, Sachi Sabli from the Mercury, have said, I am paid a little better here in these other leagues, even though I've been told, to not join these other leagues because of XYZ involving the WNBA. I'm still going to do it. So if Caitlin Clark leaves, if these all other stars, start to leave, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be bad. All the momentum destroyed, and the future of the WNBA is just in question. So, I believe Kathy will say something about an hour before the game starts. So we'll have to look out for that and see what she has to say about all of this because she needs to come out and say something. A written statement isn't enough. She needs to come out and really address what she said.
Yeah, I don't think it is a situation where she needs to completely bend over backwards for the players and say, like, you need to represent the league and understand that there's value there, but you need to make clear this is a partnership right now and that you are thankful for the opportunity and everything, rather than making it sound like we're good. We don't need any of these players, any of these people. Like, we're going to be totally fine without you. Because the league's been trying to do that for 20 years without these, like, without having it, and it hasn't been good. But like you said, Derek, the NBA was on tape delay for the finals for a long time until they really got the magic in Bird and they got the opportunity to like having these stars that put it in the mainstream kind of news. And that's where this league is at right now. And it's so close to just taking off. But man, like you are really kind of kamikazing it right now, the way that she is talking, the way that some of the things that she's done. So we'll see. I'm very interested to see what she has to say to tonight. But let's get to tonight. Speaking of which, the finals getting underway. First thing that I wanted to talk about that I'm really interested in what you guys have to say. Anytime you get to the finals, it always affects legacies. It always affects kind of the way people are remembered. I'm curious for both of you. We'll start with you, Derek. Whose legacy do you think can be affected the most from this finals if there are to win? If they are to win.
I know that the cop out answer is 100% Asia, but I'm not going to go that route. I want to say Jackie Young because what Jackie has done this entire postseason has been nothing short of incredible. What we're seeing is Asia's had a couple of rough games. I remember game 1 wasn't particularly strong. Game 3 wasn't particularly great, both in the Fever series. But Jackie Young was a major source of offense, especially in game 3, where the offense has kind of had to drive around her because of Asia struggling a little bit. Game 3 against Seattle, she's the one who catches Asia's miss, puts it back in the basket. Aces move on to the semifinals. She's been considered the Robin to Asia Wilson's Batman in a way, where she's always been the sidekick, always been the reliable source of offense, but she's never been really seen as the number one star. But there's a game, and it's the first time in WNBA history that it's a game of 7 series. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity to prove it. If you see Jackie Young take this opportunity and have a game or two where she's lights out, she's leading the offense down the court, she's driving play as things go along, I think you're going to see a lot of people have her in the conversation that, yeah, Asia Wilson's the face of a franchise. Zero question about it. No one is or should really be debating that. But it's not just her. Jackie Young is equally, if not even more so, a reliable source for the Aces.
Wendy, what do you think?
Well, I think on the Mercury side, I'm gonna have to go with Alyssa Thomas. I mean, she's been in this league for so long. She's been so close to, winning that championship that she's been wanting. But the reason I specifically pick Alyssa is just because of her veteran status and how long she's been in the league and her age. If I look at the other big two, like Satu Sabli, I mean, she's still pretty young. She still has a couple of years to kind of, work her way to a championship. Kalia has already won a championship, and she's been MVP, Finals MVP, I'm sorry. And so I think, Alyssa Thomas, she depending on how long she still has playing in this league, but this is such an opportune moment for her because she's surrounded with so much talent, like like Kalia, but also like Monique, right? She's a young, star. She's a young rookie who's literally just been, pushing it. They've been, working with her and making sure she knows what to do, and she doesn't, kind of, put herself back. She's always wanting to do more than what she's capable of. You got Natasha Mack. She's had a breakout season this year compared to the first few years of her career. So it seems like everyone is in their prime, including Alyssa. So definitely, if she were to win, this championship, it's just a like a compile of all the years of sacrifice and play in this league, all the years that she's been, with these different teams, and wanting a fresh start here with the Mercury. And she's just so close. She's just 4 games away from a championship. So definitely her legacy will be affected in this series. And who knows? She might win Finals MVP too.
A little bit of star power in this matchup between Asia Will and Alyssa Thomas. Uh, between those two in a final series, Derek, which one would you prefer to have, and which one do you think is going to have a better final series?
When in doubt, you have to go with the person who's been to the mountaintop before. I would 100% take Asia. No slight on Alyssa. Fantastic season from her, especially her first season with the Mercury. But Asia's been here before. She knows this system. She knows this situation. She's won basically everything there is to win in this league. There is no situation where I don't trust her to take over. She is one of a list of players, a very short list, where any time that she's on the court, she can just take over a game. Leads can evaporate. Aces leads can grow to double digits. She's the type of player where she can go pretty much everywhere. Offensively, she can drive to the paint, even though the Mercury have a fantastic post player themselves in Somali. She's someone who has completely dominated defensively, dominates on the glass, blocks, everything you ask of her. She's arguably the best two-way player that the league has ever seen, and you are going to see that take form in multiple ways in this series, just like it has really in the last 2 finals the Aces have been in.
When if you're going to make a argument for Alyssa Thomas. What would your argument be as to why she will have a better series than Asia?
Well, I'm sure a lot of people would choose Asia over Alyssa, but I think Koss said it best, "Don't pick us." But no, Alyssa, just with the season that she's had, I mean, she was nearing triple doubles almost every night. She had so many of those in the regular season. She had such like a lot of double doubles too. So I think a lot of her skills are just so, not appreciated, I guess. And so, when she's able to take command of the ball, being able to see the situation, trying to make those passes, get people open shots up, I think that's something that a lot of people don't really, appreciate, right? It's just creating those opportunities, and Alyssa just creates those opportunities every single game that she plays. And some of those, I think people kind of harp on her because she's not making a whole lot of three-pointers or, she's willing to pass the ball instead of making the shot herself, which I think that's gonna be key in this game just because of how, tough the Aces play, right? I mean, you look back at the regular season, the Mercury were 3-1 again, or sorry, 1-3 against the Aces. The only game that they won was the game that Asia didn't play in. And so it's really, really important that Alyssa really takes command of the ball, kind of just looks for her players, gets the rebounds. I mean, she's pretty good at getting those rebounds in, and so it's just her, focusing on herself, on her skills, which we've seen she's able to just, take command of a game herself by herself. So I definitely pick Alyssa in this series.
Yeah, I don't think she's certainly not the scorer that Asia is, but 15, 9, and 9 during the regular season as an average. I mean, and she just finds a way at the end of the game when you look at the stat sheet. It's loaded, like top to bottom. She just impacts it in so many ways. And so it's a and it plays to, I think, the way that the Mercury have played kind of this entire where it's been a team effort. It's just she kind of is the engine that makes that team kind of go right now where they found that magic. So that'll be interesting. Let's go to the coaching matchup. Becky Hammond has been here a couple of times. She's had a lot of success. And I think you got an opportunity to kind of with Nate Tibbetts to have a chance to solidify yourself as well. How do you feel about the coaching matchup going into this one, Derek? And is this one where if you add a third title for Hammond, like does this now where does she all of a sudden turn into on the totem pole of the all time coaches in the WNBA?
I would definitely say that if the Aces win, you have to put Hammond well up there as far as the coaching hierarchy all time goes. But as far as this, you have a very interesting matchup because again, no one's really thought the Mercury were going to be here, and I think that speaks to Nate Tibbetts' ability in itself because the times that I have watched the Mercury play, I've noticed a team that doesn't ask you to do anything that you're not comfortable with. They know what their players are best at, and they know how to fit that into a system that works for everybody. Becky Hammon has done largely the same thing. Obviously, she knows just how good these players are. She knows who she can trust in specific matchups. She's watched Asia before. She's watched Jackie, Chelsea, most of these players, but there's been a lot of new pieces that have been added to this equation too. Jewel Lloyd coming in that massive trade in the offseason and having to adjust her in a way that fits best for her, which is coming off the bench and being a spark plug as a sixth woman coming off. Melissa Smith coming in as a compliment to Asia midway through the season from Dallas. Dana Evans signing this offseason and really turning it on over the second half of the season and a couple of games in this postseason as well. So Becky's had to really adjust on the fly, but she's always kept honest. She's always been intense. She knows that there's always going to be a lot of pressure on the Aces, especially as this championship window is still open. So for Becky to do what she's done this entire season and guide the team through the adversity from the early stages to this point is truly impressive. And like you said, 3 championships in 4 years, you got to consider that.
Yeah. Wendy, curious your thoughts on this. There have only been 2 other coaches that have won at least 3 titles, and so that's what's on the line for Becky. But to win a title, if you're Nate Tibbetts with a team that was thrown together in the offseason to go on this run, that's kind of a historic thing in its own right for if he's able to pull this off. Which one would be more impressive to you? A coach that to cement yourself with a 3rd title or to finish off a run like this if Tibbetts is able to get this done?
When the Mercury made the playoffs last year, they were swept in the first round, and that was Nate Tibbetts' first year as head coach with the Mercury. And so when he comes into his second year as head coach, he has a completely new team. He has to kind of rework chemistry, kind of build upon a foundation that just was new, right? And so for him to take his team all the way to this, final series is just so amazing, especially with the little experience he has coaching in the WNBA. I mean, he's had experience before. He used to coach in the NBA as an assistant coach, and he's said that multiple times. He's used a lot of what he learned in the NBA, and he's brought it into the W. And so it's not like he doesn't have a whole lot of experience, just very little experience in this league. And so being able to go from first round exits to 4 games to a championship, that's amazing. I mean, like you said, especially with a new team, that I'm not a lot of teams, get to that point when they're in the middle of a rebuild, which I think isn't even a rebuild anymore. I mean, they're already competing. They don't need to move chips anymore. They have their team that's here in the finals, and I think that's very important to understand is they're set. They have that chemistry. They've played a full season together now, just a few wins away from a championship. And so I think Nate being able to just adapt to that and, change the trajectory of the team when, they weren't even predicted to be in the playoffs this year. They were predicted to be out of playoff contention. And, being in this position, I think just speaks to how well he's been able to adapt, how well he's been able to kind of figure out who he has on his bench, who he has on his team, and just make that adjustment or, uh, just kind of understand who they are as players. And, here they are. And, in a few hours, they're going to play for, a championship. And I think that's pretty cool.
Let's talk about the wild cards of this series. Derek, if you were going to say one piece, either one matchup or one player that you're going to have your eye on and you think could really swing this thing in favor of the Aces, who would that be, or what would that matchup be?
I feel like the number one thing that's really stood out to me about both teams as I was analyzing all of this for the first time is just how deep both of these teams are. Obviously all the attention is going to go to Wilson, Young, and Gray versus Thomas, Sabali, and Copper. And that makes sense. I don't think anyone's going to argue that point, but what really gets lost in the debate is how strong both teams' depth has really been. You look at the Mercury, where they have Natasha Mack at center, someone who's understands the system, was there last season. But you also have a whole lot of rookies that have panned out so far. They've really been able to grow into the system. You look at Shea Whitcomb, where she's gone off in the playoffs for the Mercury. She can turn it on in an instant. Duana Bonner, who came in over midseason and has been able to produce effectively at multiple points. Meanwhile, you have the aces on the other side, Bird and Alyssa Smith. Again, excellent compliment to Asia Wilson. They didn't really have that at the beginning of the year. She's been able to go off at points. Jewel Lloyd, former champion. She knows what the score is. Dana Evans, who's been able to go off. Even Kirsten Bell can just explode for the most random games you've ever seen, where everyone talks about how she's like, oh, like she doesn't really shoot a whole lot. And then all of a sudden she just throws like 5 or 6 3-pointers and they all make it. Like, I've seen that happen before, and so no one can really discount the importance of the benches in this matchup. And if the big threes of both teams kind of cancel each other out, where it's dead even going into a game, I think you're going to see the team that has the better bench performance win those games in the end.
Wendy, if the Mercury are going to pull off, according to Vegas, the upset here, What are you looking at? By the way, according to Vegas is a funny way of having this.
We are very guilty
I was like,
hosts.
Vegas, you very much
You can't blame us for that.
fair enough. But if they're gonna pull this off, what matchup, if you're taking Thomas off the table, who needs to have a big series for them, or what is the matchup that you're looking at that they have to win in order to win this series?
I agree with Derek. I think this series is going to come down to how much depth they have both on their bench and in their starters. But one specific player that I'm really looking for, and I think this has been just, a conversation since the beginning of the playoffs, is Satu Sattli. Game one against the New York Liberty, she was 2 for 17. She did not have a great shooting game. The Mercury are 5-0 when she's shooting 15 or more points. So I think the key here is to keep Sabli hot. She needs to make her shots. She needs to score, really. She's one of those players that are able just to, I don't know how she does it, honestly. Those tough shots she gets in, I don't know how she does it, but she does it, right? That's why they call her the unicorn. Those three-pointers, that help out the team whenever they need a major three-pointer from, she's got the team. And so I think depth is important, but I think her specifically for the Mercury, is she's gonna be key. And, if she's not shooting, if she's not performing, then, the Mercury are kind of missing one of their key pieces. And yeah, they have Alyssa and they have Kalia, and then of course they have their bench that are also really capable of shooting a three-pointer if the team really needs it. But Sably really needs to have a good series for Phoenix to be able to, keep themselves in this series. So really look out for her. And yeah, she's really just got to stay hot.
All right, well, let's finally get to the big thing that what everyone is interested in. Derek, you got a prediction for the series? Who wins and in how many games?
As Dominique Cooper at Dice City Sports put in her article, I have the Aces in 6. Note the Mercury, they have the depth. They have the best defense going into this postseason as well. So that's going to give that's going to give any team fits. We've seen it happen with the Liberty. We've seen it happen to the Lynx. We're going to see it happen to the Aces at some points in this series. That's a given. Like that's just the way it goes. But no team, in my opinion, has, and I know it sounds very homerish, so well, I'll be openly honest there, but no team has been able to really bounce back in the face of adversity like the Aces have. They have just, with all the struggles that have taken place this season, even in this postseason, they have always managed to find a way to come back. They have every setback, they've come back stronger. So even the Mercury are going to get a game or two, most likely two. You have to give them that respect. But when in doubt, this team's been here before. They know the score, they know how it works. You have to trust that in any close matchup, and they do have home court advantage for this series. That can't be discounted either. You have so with all of these variables going on, it's hard to bet against the Aces, and I've seen it enough times where if you bet on them, you're gonna lose. So that's where I have to go.
What about you, Wendy?
Well, I believe the series is going to go to 7, and I believe the Mercury will win. Uh, for a variety of reasons, but I think it's very a testament to just how they got here, right? The defending champions, that defeated the number 1 seed. So they've faced quite a lot of difficulty getting to this point. And it's not to say the Aces aren't difficult and it'll be a cakewalk for them, which is why I'm saying they'll win it in 7 games. I just think that throughout the playoffs this month, they've really prepared themselves against some really tough teams. I mean, it's not easy going through those teams. It's not easy playing against them. So I think the Mercury have really built this connection to where they're trusting each other more. They know each other's tendencies a little bit more now that they've played series with each other, with the same teams, trying to adapt on the fly. I mean, they lost their first games in each of the series and then bounced back to win the remaining games necessary to, move on. And so I think the Mercury are just, waiting for another opportunity to kind of showcase, hey, we're here. Don't forget about us. Yeah, we might not be on your, number one, picked to win the series, but we're here and we're going to keep fighting. So I think that's just going to be the underdog mentality that they're going to have and that they've carried throughout the entire season. That's what's going to just propel them. And, they're very, very, they trust each other. You can just tell by the way that they talk in these pressers, by the way that they practice, that they just trust each other so much. And so they might not have the playoff experience that the Aces have. They might not have a bunch of championships, but hey, they got to this point and they're not gonna, let this opportunity go to waste. So I think Mercury in 7.
I tend to split the difference between you guys. I think the Aces take it in 7. When it's I just the home court in a game 7, it feels like such a big swinging factor, and I think the home court's going to be kind of what really kind of swings the series a little bit. That being said, I did pick against the Mercury in the first round. I did pick against them in the second round. Didn't think they had a shot in the second round. I thought that was going to be a 3-1 series. So I've been wrong a time or two with this team. It feels like, and we'll see if I can go 0 for 3. Vegas would love it if I went there with my kind of betting odds right now. It's like I'd make those buildings real tall out there if I ever did that with the way that I'm playing. So I can't wait to see what happens. It all gets started tonight, game 1 at Vegas. It's going to be a great series one way or another. We'll have a chance to talk with you guys kind of throughout this, but I do appreciate you guys taking some time for talking with us today and can't wait to see what happens with this series, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be so much fun, and we're all winners regardless.
There it is.
Free content for everybody.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Perfect. We'll catch you guys soon.
All right, thanks, Spencer.
Yep. Thank you very much.